Today we're going to talk about measures of central tendency, and you may be wondering, what is central tendency? And most of you are pretty smart and probably read the next line on the slide, but just in case you didn't and we want to actually try and figure this out, central tendencies, let's think of these words. Central is kind of like middle or center, and tendencies are things that are common or we do over and over again. So we're looking for things that are common and in the middle. And hopefully this light bulb goes off in your head and you think of the statistical measures, mean, median, and mode. Now we're also going to include range in this PowerPoint because it's another important measure of data, but it is not a central tendency because it doesn't give us a middle number. Our measures of central tendency we talked about earlier, mean, median, and mode. Now mean is the average, most commonly used, where we add up all the numbers and divide by the total amount of data points. We use the mean to describe the middle when there is no outlier. The median also describes the middle, but it's the middle number when numbers are not in numerical order, or are in numerical order, so either least to greatest or greatest to least. We use the median to describe the middle when there is an outlier. And mode is the value that's seen the most. And we use mode to describe non-numeric sets or most popular choices, like our favorite movie or favorite book. Other important definitions to know is outlier. We talked about it in both median and mean. An outlier is a value which is much greater or less than the other values. So if you look at this data set here, hopefully there's one number that glares out to you, 19. 19 is an outlier because it's so much bigger than the other numbers. The closest number to it is 6, and most of those numbers are grouped really close. So 19 would be an outlier because it's just so much bigger. The other measure of data we have covered before, but just a reminder, is the range. Remember, the range is the difference between the greatest and least values. So let's look at a couple examples. We're going to calculate the mean, median, mode, and range of each set. And we're also going to determine which measure of central tendency best represents the data. So this first set. To find the mean, we're going to add up all the data points and divide by the total number, which is 8. And we get 122. For the median, we need to put the numbers in numerical value and then find the middle number, which in this case, there are two middle numbers. So remember, we have two middle numbers. We have to find the middle of the middle. So we find the average of 109 and 113, which is 111. The mode is the one we see the most, 104, and our range is our biggest value, 189, minus our smallest value, 104, which is 85. Now, which measure best describes it? Well, if we look at our data set, for the most part, they're grouped pretty close together, but we have this number, 189, which is so much bigger than all the other values. So we're going to say that's an outlier, and because it's an outlier, we know that the median is going to be our best measure of central tendency because the median is more consistent. If we look at the difference between the median and the median is much more realistic as far as a middle number. Now, look at our second set. Again, I'm going to add up all the numbers, divide by 5, we get a mean of 8. When we order our numbers, our middle number, our median, is going to be 5. The most common value we see, our mode, is 5. And if we take the biggest number, 16, and the smallest number, 3, and we subtract them, we get the range of 13. Now, when we look at this set, we kind of have a wide variety of numbers, but we don't have one that is just so much different than all the rest of them. So when we're going to decide which measure is best, we're going to vote on the mean. Now I want to look at a real-life example of these. It says the math test scores of John are 87, 94, 76, 84, and 86. What must he score on the next test to increase his mean to 86 or to get an average of 86% on the test? We're going to set this up as an equation because we've been working really hard on algebra and we want to be able to do this algebraically. So we know to find the average, you add up the total and divide by the number of tests. So we're going to take the 5 tests he already took and add them together plus some mystery number. We don't know what that last test is going to be, and divide it by 6 because there's going to be 6 total tests when he's done. and that's got to give us 86. Now this may look like a really complicated problem to solve, but it's actually not bad when we go about it. So what we want to do is we want to multiply and get rid of that fraction, because we, of course, don't like fractions. So we're going to multiply by the greatest or the least common denominator, which is 6. And so our 6's are going to cancel out on one side, and 86 times 6 is 516. We're going to combine like terms on the same side, so we get 420 plus x is 516. And then we're going to cancel our constant, so x is 86. So John is going to need to get an 86 on his final math test in order to get an 86 in the class. Now it's your turn. Find the mean, and mode, and range for the following data and determine which measure of central tendency best measures the data. And the second question you're going to do very similar to our last application. So pause the video, take a chance to do these, and if you're unsure, go back and look at the examples. Hopefully, your answers match mine. Get a mean of 460, a median of 379, a mode of 479, and a range of 1,155. And if we decide which measure is best, we're going to say the median because we have an outlier. 1,299 is much bigger than everything else. So median is going to be our best measure. For the second one, hopefully got a 96%. We're going to need a 96% on that fourth test to end up with a 90% and an A in that class. Thanks for watching. Any questions, bring them to class.